Christopher holds a rare distinction. He is the first composer in Hollywood history to rescore an existing film for Sony Pictures, Sam Peckinpah's Major Dundee, which David Kerr of the New York Times hailed it as an excellent score that fully realized Sam Peckinpah's original vision. He is also the recipient of the Henry Mancini Award for film scoring, with his work ranked among the top scores of the year by Film Score magazine. His music has been performed by the Los Angeles Philharmonic at the Hollywood Bowl, alongside legendary composers like John Williams, Jerry Goldsmith, James Horner, Richard Rodgers, and Oscar Hammerstein II. So, with over 350 published works spanning tango, gypsy, flamenco, jazz, many archived in the Library of Congress, Christopher has been described by renowned film critic Leonard Maltin as one of Hollywood's most versatile composers. Today's presentation is not about resisting AI. It's about using it correctly. So because while technology can enhance the result, it cannot replace the source, the emotion, the storytelling, the artistic intent. What you're about to see are 3 behind-the-scenes demonstrations showing exactly how craft leads and technology follows. Please welcome my friend, Christopher Caliendo. Thank you very much. So, Christopher, your career began at UCLA graduate student under Henry Mancini Film Award, composing for CBS, when craft ruled and technology was emerging, but not yet dominant. Can you tell us about those experiences?
Sure. I explained to you earlier that I was out of hundreds of people that applied for the Mancini Scholarship. I was very fortunate to win it. And in those days, every studio had a music department, so there was a curated system, meaning there was, like at the Conservatory in Boston, in order to apply, they only took so many recipients from all over the world. You had to know 2 musical instruments very well. You had to have advanced harmony, advanced solfeggio training. You had to be able to sight read. So there were many requirements just to apply, let alone get in. So it was a very trained, serious system, no different than publishing a book. You had editors, you had erudite people that could diagnose whether your book was worthy of publishing. So these music departments, you could only get in through a well-known composer who could recommend you. So with the Mancini Scholarship, I started at Paramount, like I explained earlier, as a copyist. And that job was wonderful because you were inside, you were on the lot, and you were learning your craft from the composers who would submit their scores, and you would write out the separate parts. And then that one day, a computer was on a table, came in, and someone started using phenomenal music publishing software. And we looked with great skepticism that this is going to take away this great craft of calligraphy, of handwriting. And then you would, after a certain tenure, still while a student, you became a librarian. And that means you would take the music and you would bring it into at that time, CBS was recording at Lorimar, an MGM lot. And we had a 24 pickup orchestra, which was very typical of the time. And you started working with the musicians, who were all faculty at UCLA anyway. And then, of course, you had a chance to meet the composers. So I had a chance to meet Gerald Immelman, who was just wonderful timing because he picked up a 3rd show called Paradise starring the handsome Lee Horsley. And one of his incumbent orchestrators, Bruce Broughton, went on to score Silverado and a lot of movies. Bruce Broughton had left, and there was this big space, open space. Jerry knew I won the Mancini Scholarship. He invited me to his home and he hired me. And that's how the system was back then, with the emerging technology of self-publishing, etc. But phenomenal publishing software was the first major technology that created the first major paradigm shift.
So I know that you have created some videos and brought some with us. Would this be a good time to roll video 1, which is
Sure.
about our...
Video 1 is about how a classical composer uses AI in post-production. So this will give you an idea. I'm not sure if I'm any which way about it. Move back here.
This is where it starts for me. Not in the plugin, not in the prompt box. Here. Every score begins with a musical idea, a theme, a harmonic intention, a rhythmic signature, before a single sample is triggered, before any software makes a decision, I make one. This is the third movement of my Star Trek symphony. What you're looking at is compositional architecture, the same craft that Beethoven used, that Bernard Herrmann used, that John Williams still uses today. Counterpoint, voice leading, thematic development, the training that started as a teenager through my academic studies. Now, this is what it sounds like with Garretson's playback instruments. Primitive, limited, but I push the software to its full potential because this reference track is essential. The board who commissioned the work needs to know they're getting exactly what they commissioned, that the music reflects what they asked for, and that it aligns with their audience demographics. This gives them something concrete to hear, not just imagine. And for the conductor, it answers practical questions immediately. The length of the movements, the level of difficulty, the pacing, what they're actually going to be responsible for bringing to life on the podium. And that's why the quality of the reference matters. It has to communicate clearly and has to represent the piece honestly. But notice something. The music is already working. The emotion is already there. That's the test I give every piece I write. If it works on a bad piano, it'll work on a full orchestra.
But for the first time, I asked a different question.
What happens when I take a piece of music like this and let technology serve it after it's been composed? So I sent the WAV file to my partner Mark Keefner in Los Angeles to experiment with AI-assisted mixing and orchestral refinement. And this is where technology second comes in. I told Mark to prompt the AI, mix the WAV file to capture the magic of the 1960s and 70s, the golden decades of Deutsche Grammophon recordings with the Berlin Philharmonic. Under Herbert von Karajan's brilliant leadership and cutting-edge engineering, these eras developed audiophile masterpieces like the Brahms symphonies and Beethoven's cycles. Same composition, same notes, same architecture built from decades of training. But now, listen to what happens when technology serves the craft. This is not AI composing. This is AI elevating.
Now, there are limitations. At this stage, AI still struggles with orchestral mixing, particularly depth and space and realism. For example, I prompted, mix this like a 1940s Deutsche Grammophon recording with the Berlin Philharmonic. It can't fully achieve that, but what's remarkable is how much closer it gets. The clarity improves, the balance tightens, and occasionally it even introduces harmonic variations that are surprisingly interesting.
As I transition into Dorico for publishing, I'll continue experimenting with AI in this phase because orchestral mixing is its own discipline.
It's not mine, and it doesn't need to be. For me, using technology after the craft is a game changer.
So after watching that, what are you actually hearing before the technology even touches your music?
I'm hearing the decisions, I'm hearing the notes, I'm hearing the harmonic patterns, I'm hearing rhythmic units. I'm understanding and hearing the why behind the intention of the music. Technology is a great delivery system, but you can't offer the intention.
Okay. So at what point then Does technology become an enhancement rather than a crutch?
I think when you remove it and you still have music, you can strip the technology, you can strip all of the AI elements, the loops, the plugins, right? But is there composition still left? So enhancement is serving the idea. The crutch would be serving the technology. Serving the tech is the idea.
So for younger composers relying on plugins first, what are they missing at this stage?
Well, they're missing skipping failure. And what I mean by that is that when I sit down at a piano and there's silence and a blank page, I have to manifest, notes, the whole creative process. The struggle to do that develops the musical brain. It develops musical value. It develops musical instinct. It develops aesthetics. It develops my ability to one day hopefully achieve an adjective. That music sounds like Christopher Caliendo. So plugins, amplify the idea, but the idea can amplify the tool. I'm stressing that because it's craft first technology. So.
Right. Okay. So is AI revealing then actually who knows how to compose and who doesn't?
Well, it's certainly an incredible filter. It's the most efficient filter that I've ever experienced so far in technology. If identity disappears, when you take away all the technology, you no longer have a composer. You have an operator, right? So knowing the craft elevates the ability to use AI.
Right. So I know that you've got a couple of videos. I think we have something specific example of how AI has actually entered your compositional process.
For film?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that Gabriel?
There it is.
Video
Yeah.
too? Yes.
The television music licensing world doesn't care about how you feel about your music. It cares whether your music works on screen. Full stop. When my agent submits music to a network, they're not submitting a vibe, they're submitting a story told in sound. One a music supervisor can drop into a scene and immediately know this is the one.
For Wednesday, I composed this main title cue using Logic Pro and a curated palette of virtual instruments. Low woodwinds, 3 organ textures, piano, brass, strings, trillion bass, marimba, and auxiliary percussion. But before I wrote a note, I did the work. I went back and I studied the original The Addams Family. That show was playful, ironic, and rhythmically driven. It leaned into camp, almost vaudevillian, with a wink to the audience. Think snapping fingers, light staccato phrasing, and a mischievous charm that made darkness feel safe, even funny. Wednesday is the inversion of that. It's colder, it's more psychological, there's restraint, and quiet sense of menace.
The humor is still there, but it's dry. It's surgical. It's almost cruel at times. Emotion is buried under control. So instead of writing quirky, I wrote controlled tension. Instead of caricature, I focused on interiority, low register writing, sparse melodic movement, space that lets the darkness breathe.
This is the reference track I sent to Mark. Listen closely. The dynamic contour, the tension between bass and piano, the low-end melody, the precision of the percussion accents. Everything is intentional. Craft before technology. Now, same session. I export the stems and send them to Mark. He runs the mix through Suno AI-assisted mastering tools, optimizing levels, spatial imaging, and mastering broadcast specs.
Same DNA, completely different expression. And this is what comes back.
You'll notice the difference immediately. The low end is tighter, the stereo field opens up, the clarity translates across systems. But the music, the emotion, the arc, the storytelling, that's still exactly what I wrote. AI didn't change the composition, it elevated the delivery. And here's where this becomes a placement tool. Using Canva's AI video tools, I built a visual reference, syncing my music to stylized Gothic imagery. Now I'm not just sending audio, I'm showing the supervisor exactly how the music lives inside the picture.
For Vikings, I did the same thing. I created the main title inspired by the tonal world of the show, then used AI-generated visuals and my own performance footage to build a pitch-ready reference video.
This is no different than an actor showing up to an audition in a wardrobe.
I'm using technology to extend my reach, not replace my voice. The music was already written. The story was already told. AI helped me present it at a higher and auditory level, and a higher visual level. And yes, it made it sound better. And that matters when you don't have the gig yet. You don't have the budget for top studio players, and still need to demonstrate your craft and artistic intent at the highest level.
So in a world where anyone can press a button now and create music, what does it actually take to get a cue placed?
I think it takes emotional accuracy still. I think AI can generate 1 million cues, 1 billion cues, but it can't walk through a rough cut and instinctively know what's missing. That's a human job.
Mm-hmm. And so how has AI changed your ability to compete for placements before you even land a gig?
Well, it's raised the floor. I mean, the ceiling is much higher now. You can take years ago, we were very familiar now, certainly with respect to AI, that a demo would be relatively mediocre. And the expectation wouldn't be so high in terms of the demos today, yesteryear. But now the demo quality is extraordinarily expensive sounding with AI, as you can tell, right? So what's interesting about AI is that it's made authenticity the most valuable currency in the room, which benefits those who know their craft.
Right. So are we moving toward a world where presentation matters as much as
I think we're already there. I think we're definitely already there. Craft becomes survival now. You can have two composers who compose on the same emotional level, same craft, same ability. But what's going to differentiate the one who gets the gig, I believe, is the one who absolutely adjust their thinking capacities to fit the vision and philosophy of the director or the producer. Presentation has changed now. It's not about the packaging. It's about knowing the job, what's important to the job.
Mm. All right, I think that transitions us well to a video 3, which is we've already explored AI in the orchestral and film world, but what does it look like in pop music? And I know that you partnered with platinum award-winning artist Mark Keefner, who's actually using AI in his mixing and processing or in his mastering process. Can we roll that now and watch that?
Mark Keefner is a Platinum Award-winning songwriter and lyricist. He has built a career not on algorithms, but on emotional truth. What you'll be watching is where every great song begins. A person, an instrument, and something they needed to say. This is the part most people never see. The decisions, the deletions, the moment you try something and it's wrong and you know it's wrong because you've trained your ear for decades to hear the difference.
This song is called Catch You on the Other Side. I wrote it as a tribute for a good friend of mine, Alan O'Day. I don't know if you remember him. He had a hit back in 1977, I think, called Undercover Angel, and he was actually the artist on it too. They did the demo originally, but they couldn't find anybody else that delivered it like he did, so they launched him as an artist, and he became the oldest artist at the time to have a hit, 37 years old.
Then I heard a voice beside me, and she softly said, "Wonder is your nightlight, magic is your dream." And as I held her, she said, "See what I mean."
I write songs a lot of different ways, but I wrote this one from the heart for him because he's been gone for about 5 years now, and I never really got to say goodbye. So this was just my way of connecting with him and connecting to a deeper fabric of inner truth within myself that believes that there is a connection on the other side, and our loved ones are still there. So anyway, on a song like this, I generally don't write with tracks. I don't start with loops or anything like that. I want to let the lyric and the melody lead me. I started messing around with what I wanted to say and created a vision of where I wanted it to go. And the first thought was, I can't believe this is the end. So that became the opening lyric, which was really cool. And that kind of just sent me on the path down to write the whole thing. So I can't believe this is the end. So much left to say. I don't know where to begin. It's not my choice, you're leaving. Time for you to fly. That don't mean it's easy trying to say goodbye. Spent so long believing we would always be together, catching shows, hanging with friends. Turns out there's no forever, every story has to end. Holding on to hope someday you'll be there when I call, and we'll do it all again. I'll catch you on the other side, and together we can watch the sunrise. I'll catch you when the moon hangs low. Roll the top down and just let the wind blow. Sometimes all it takes is time. You know I'm gonna keep the dream.
Notice what's already working. The melody, the chord movement, the lyrics sitting perfectly on the rhythm. This is musicianship. This is craft that took years to build, and it cannot be prompted.
That's the gist of it. So
When the production is complete, Mark runs the final mix through AI mastering.
here we are inside the Suno interface, and what I've done here is flown in my original audio track of the music that I came up with, and then I did a really rough work vocal. A lot of interesting things on the interface. You can just pinch, open or close to make it bigger or smaller. Of course, these buttons here are for if you want to hear it or not hear it. And then you have volume, and then you have panning left or right if you want to go that way. There's a lot of interfaces. Something that's good to do before you cover whatever tracks you want or recreate is you go here, and this will give you a screen for styles, which is also used for prompts. In other words, if I wanted to make this a a hip-hop groove, I could just put hip-hop or house remix or whatever, and then done, and then we'll apply those prompts to whatever you cover. Another space here is for lyrics, which you can fly in the whole lyric to a song if it has lyrics in it, and then it applies that.
I hope someday you'll be there when I call, and we'll do it all again. I'll catch you on the other side, and together we can watch the sunrise.
Yeah, I put some goofy artifacts into the vocals, and the timing seems to be off from the way I created it. Nonetheless, once I hit cover, I have to like highlight these, command, click, and click, and then you can either remix the selection or cover it. And what it will do is create a new version of it. So I've already done that, so we don't need to go through that step. Create, and then what you get, then I'm going to mute these tracks, and I'll play what I came up with.
And what comes out the other side is this.
I can't believe this is the end. So much left to say. I don't know where to begin. It's not my choice, you're leaving. Time for you to fly. That don't mean it's easy trying to say goodbye. I spent so long believing we would always be together, catching shows, hanging with friends. Turns out there's no forever, every story has to end. I'm holding on to hope someday you'll be there when I call, and we'll do it all again. I'll catch you on the other side, and together we can watch the sunrise. I'll catch you when the moon hangs low. Roll the top down and just let the wind blow. Sometimes all it takes is time. You know I'm gonna keep the dream alive. I'll catch you on the other side. Yesterday I almost laughed, thinking about that night we were looking.
After I had finished the guitar vocal version, I tried to do some track myself, and it was really cool, but it was kind of funky, like, you know, and not the kind of thing that really went with it. I liked it, but I didn't love with it. It still didn't reflect the original heart of the song. So that's when it hit me. Okay, well, it's time to try AI. So I went into Suno and got the professional version of that so that I could use Studio. It's called Suno Studio. It's really a rudimentary DAW, digital audio workstation. So very limited on what you can do, but I watched a quick tutorial and kind of figured I could do some stuff. And I flew in the original track I had. Important to note, it was a complete structure with all the chord changes, all the nuances that I wanted in there, the beats, the feel was not what I wanted. The beats and the changes and structure were great, melody in the ballpark, lyrics, everything was there. But I wanted to see what AI would do. So this was a kind of an explosive moment for me. And that's when I flew it in.
A platinum-level songwriter, a finished radio-ready track, and an AI tool that had the wisdom to stay in its lane to serve the song, not reshape it. This is what craft first looks like at the finish line.
I'll catch you on the other side, and together we can watch the sunrise.
I love him dearly, and you can see how emotional he got. You know, he's probably tearing when he was talking about a song he wrote 5 years ago. Yeah, 5 years ago.
which shows you the human element. It just shows you the sincerity of everything that goes into the song. And I've listened to AI-generated songs, from beginning to end, completely generated. And because of my training and because of my experience in music, I can't help but within 30 seconds, it just gets blasé. I can predict everything that's going to happen in the song. It just doesn't have what I'm preaching about, that human element that's so critical to the metaphysical abstractions that I bring into perceptual awareness. And Mark does in pop. I do it in film and theater and everything else in pop as well. My point is, no one can answer this question. I find it difficult. I own different businesses, not just in music, but I can always define what my products are. I have no problem defining a product. Whether it's being an Italian chef, whether it's an office supply store. Does anybody know how to define music? What is music? Can anybody tell me?
For me, it's what you feel.
Music is what you feel. Okay, certainly that.
How it makes you feel.
Yeah.
Great.
Music is, it certainly is what you're saying it is, but on an academic level, if I'm going to push academic thought, the recreation of reality, according to man's widest metaphysical abstractions, into perceptual awareness. Now, what that means is it is a cognitive process, right? In order for me to exemplify through musical means what love means to me, what courage means to me, I have to reach out to the widest metaphysical abstractions that are personal to me into perceptual awareness, which is the orchestra, whatever performing group, whatever musicians, pop, whatever field, whatever idiom, which demonstrates how critical it is for the human to be at the forefront of the technology in order for it to be a lived personal experience, to be visceral. Out of all the arts, music communicates quicker than any other art form. Except when I went to Italy and I saw Michelangelo's David, and I couldn't believe how much emotion came out of stone. But other than that, that's really what music, that's what art is. Not just music, but all art. It's the recreation of reality, according to how we journey and perceive it. All of our experiences contribute to the manifestation of the creation of art.